Go back to Trump and go back to the gentleman we talked about earlier, Deng, what was his last name?
Xiaoping.
Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping. I went and looked up to see his relationship with Xi, how Xi views him. Does he respect him? Does he not respect him? Does he admire him? Like, is there a level of admiration? Because if there is, maybe that's a good thing for Trump, right? That's an opening for somebody to go negotiate the deal. And he says Xi gave high regards to him on the 120th anniversary of Deng's birthday, August 2024, which was a little less than a year ago, right? And he referred to him as an outstanding leader with high prestige, recognized by the whole party, the whole army, and the people of all ethnic groups in the country, and a great Marxist who made great contributions to a world peace and development. This is what he said. However, despite this admiration, he's marked a departure from his approach. Deng emphasized economic reforms and a more collective leadership style, while Xi has consolidated power and reasserted the Communist Party's control over various aspects of Chinese society. Analysts note that Xi has moved away from Deng's low-profile foreign policy, adopting more assertive initiatives to reshape the global order. So this is not Deng. So it's not like Trump can go to China, sit down, have a conversation with him, or invite him here and say, let's figure something out. What does Trump do today? I understand what you're saying with the banks. We need more banks. We're down to 4,000. We used to have 14,000. Yes, get that. But right now, during the tariff, right now it's the trade war that they're having. What should he and his administration do now? Do you have any suggestions or any ideas?
I would try to diffuse this now, because otherwise we'll see a standoff where each party, I mean, this is number one, number two economic power and political power in the world.
So you want number one to cave to number two?
Well, exactly. We avoid that. We need to avoid that both parties think, oh, I can't cave in.
But it is, though.
No. Well, this has to be done the right way so that, of course, the US also is not caving in, or is not seen to be caving in, because likewise, China doesn't want to be seen to be caving in. That's the whole
So what's an ideal situation?
Well, of course, ideally, you would have never got into this situation, right? Because that was pretty predictable.
But you have to, though, because they've been bullying. They've been controlling. They've been coming up, and they've been doing things that a lot of people in America don't feel comfortable with. They've been buying properties right next to our military units. They've been buying up land all over the place. They've been doing certain things where we're sitting there saying, what is your motive? What are you trying to do long term? Is this slowly going up through Mexico and other places? What are you trying to do long term?
Yes.
So it makes a lot of people in America feel uncomfortable.
Still, the way to address this each time, I think, would have been to sit together, the right people, maybe fairly high level, and say, look, we have these and these concerns. Can we deal with this? And this is off the record. You have these discussions not in public, precisely because you want to avoid a public standoff where each party can't be seen to be caving in. I think it can be diffused, and I think it will be successful to diffuse it. In many ways, okay, both parties have now shown that, okay, they can be tough guys. Both are tough guys, great, fine. So let's now get down to business and resolve this issue. So maybe there have to be
How do you do it?
Private meetings, secret meetings that are not official, but between the respective top guys, whether it's Trump himself or potentially Secretary of State, or you have to find the right level, but and meeting their counterparty and saying, look, we want to diffuse this, but of course we want to achieve. You have to understand what we're trying to achieve. Can we agree that, certain things we are saying are reasonable, and we get your viewpoint? You don't want to be seen to be bullied. Okay, so let's come up with a formula. They will make suggestions. That's the Asian way. They will be very creative suddenly. Okay, we understand. You don't lose face. We don't lose face. We'll come up with a solution. It's possible. It could be. I mean, there's all sorts of things you could think of. I mean, potentially even with another party, or you create some kind of diversion where both parties are seen to have to now change something because of something else happening. There's so many things you can do if both parties want to diffuse it, and it's made clear that we don't want to lose face.
I'm convinced Trump wants to diffuse it.
Really?
100%. I'm convinced Trump wants to diffuse it.
Well, that'd be great. That'd be great, because I could help. I could help diffuse it.
I 100%. I'm not him, but I'm convinced he absolutely wants to diffuse it. But I think the part that needs to be clear in a situation like this is, hey, you've gained more from us than we've gained from you over the years.
Well, I think...
And I understand that's probably not where you're going to go, but Trump, to him, he's not going to change from that. Even that one time when he had Netanyahu there up on the podium, and everybody is thinking, oh, he's going to say this, he's going to say that. He doesn't even want Netanyahu to sometimes think he's got full control. He said, yeah, we're thinking about what if the U.S. buys Gaza? And
that was a surprise.
And Netanyahu goes like this, like, wait, what did you just say? He threw him off because you have to kind of throw off sometimes, because even your allies sometimes will take advantage of you. Because they feel behind closed doors they own you. You can't do that. This is America. I want a leader like him to lead. But in the situation, and FYI, just out of curiosity for my own reasons, how much do you think these two ports, the one that BlackRock is buying from C.K. Hutchinson, the 43 ports they're buying, but the two main ones in Panama, do you think that's going to go through?
In what sense?
Do you think that deal will get finalized? Right now, there's a lawsuit saying that CK is, breaking some contract laws for taking too much time. Only reason I'm saying this is because this is leverage. If U.S. controls those two ports, we also have a little bit of leverage here.
Well, I mean, this can be part of any deal, and it seemed like a bit of a concession, that this will become, essentially the Hong Kong companies selling those ports. Okay, it seemed like an olive branch from the Chinese side. And therefore, I mean, I assumed it will go ahead if it's also recognized. I mean, this is the thing. Both parties also want their actions to be recognized and appreciated. And I think the way to approach it is not to say your Chinese success has been due to us Americans and America. It's partly true, but only partly, because it was hard Chinese work, very hard work at low wages, people really, working their ass off. For a long time, long working hours and so on. So the Chinese worked for it, that's for sure. But it's also true at the same time that both, in fact, the Japanese rise and the Chinese rise wouldn't have happened in this way and wouldn't have been so dramatically successful if the US hadn't been this very open, accommodating market that they could sell into quite nicely in a sense, so that is a contribution. So I think if one appreciates both parties' contributions, then what you come to a conclusion there is, well, it's a team. This is teamwork. We've done this together. Let's be proud of it. There's a way of shaping, shaping the conversation where both sides see that, okay, what I've done is being appreciated. And yes, now we have some issues. Let's try to resolve them. I think it's possible. I mean, I've been in China, professor of finance at Fudan University in Shanghai for 3 years. So I've spent some time there, and I've met some senior people.
Bless you.
I think it's possible. It's possible to diffuse it in a way that both parties will be happy, and then actually establish a long-term relationship. There is one aspect where I see difficulties, and that is the military side, because we have this military industrial complex in the US, the deep state, and in China they feel this is so strong we need countermeasures, and the Chinese feel like we're doing all this because we're kind of afraid of all the US military threatening here and there and accusing us of stuff. So a lot of work would be needed on that side as well. But it's good to start with the economy, and then you can move on to that trickier bit.
Well, look, China stopped the world with COVID. And for the longest time, Fauci and all these people said the virus didn't come from there. The entire world lost a lot of money. Hundreds of thousands of businesses were decimated. Decimated. Who did that? China did that. The rest of the world is supposed to just sit there and forget about it?
Was it just China, though?
Yeah.
Yes, we know these experiments and sort of research was outsourced to Wuhan by who? By U.S. institutions. When in Fort Detrick, they were told by judges to shut it down. Then they moved, and Fauci moved it to Wuhan. So it was actually on U.S. instructions. That's often what gets left out. And of course, all these institutions. I mean, the roads go back to the World Economic Forum and some string pullers there.
But
and they're just using China, and China think, oh, this is Americans, we help them. Actually, they've also been used and tricked, I think, into this. Because they thought it's an American virus, but that they did perhaps in Wuhan, sort of tricked into it in China. But that's why there were these very strong lockdowns, because they always suspected, because the US side was working on this genetically targeting viruses. We've seen this also in all these Ukraine locations, US locations in Ukraine that Russia has been unhappy about and has been working to shut down, where there's genetic targeting of particular ethnic groups. And once you have evidence for that, the Chinese, of course, felt, well, maybe they're targeting us. We better be careful and have these extreme shutdowns and lockdowns and extreme measures that were then world famous, right? And sort of set the stage. I can see that this was sort of triggered by the US deep state doing all this stuff and these experiments.
But the deep state is a globalist that's working closely with our enemies. And I don't put them as Americans. I put them as people that were for sale, that are bought by our enemies, such as China. And China learned how to play puppet master with these guys. But that's a different story. Richard, every time you come here, I get smarter. And now, for the next 2 months, I'm going to be repeating the story of what happened in 1978, where a pragmatic guy, Deng, how'd you say his last name?
Deng Xiaoping. Deng is actually his last name, Deng.
Deng Xiaoping.
And then you've got the first name.
Xiaoping.
Xiaoping. It's small. Ping means some plain or even thing. My Chinese is a bit rusty.
Deng Xiaoping goes to Japan, talks to them about the secret, has drinks, and they tell him you need 5,000 banks and 5,000 loan officers, and they do that, and the rest is history.
5 million, in fact.
5 million
when you have
loan
5,000
officers,
banks with 35 branches, 30 loan officers.
Insane. Richard, I appreciate you coming out. Talk about crazy timing. But thank you for coming. By the way, are you on Minnect yet, or you're not on Minnect? Because I'm sure a lot of people are going to have questions for you. You're not on Minnect?
Not yet, no.
Okay, I'm going to have Tony talk to you about getting on Minnect so everybody can ask you questions.
If I could just mention my Substack, rwerner.substack.com. I'd love to have some more subscribers. I put out reports on things like this.
We will 100% put it below. We're going to put your Substack below, and on the way out, get an account set up with Tony on Minnect, because you're going to have a lot of people asking you questions. I'm going to send a lot of people your way.
Excellent. Thank you.
Appreciate you for coming out.
Thanks
Again,
so much.
as usual. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Take care, everybody. God bless. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed today's podcast and you would like to find a way to connect with the guests, all you have to do is download the app Minnect, scan this QR code, or click on a link on the description, and you'll be able to ask them a question, an audio, video, or even have a 15-minute call with them. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.